You're good at editing, right?
Yeah. No, that's gonna be there. That's just
Yep.
they know this thing is real. So
Yeah. All right. It's 3, 2, 1. Pass. Hey y'all. My name is Lupe Garcia. I am the Woodburn Branch Director at our Woodburn Club. And so today we're actually going to be starting our new video series called Know Your Club Staff. And so for today, we're going to actually be introducing our T3 department, and they're going to be sharing a little bit about themselves and like what they do. And so would you like to start us off?
Hey everyone, I'm Yanira. I am the Workforce Readiness Director. So I oversee our middle school and high school workforce programs, so grade by 8th, T3, as well as Salem Teen Court.
I'm Sarah. I'm the Workforce Readiness Specialist. I oversee juniors and first-time seniors in the program.
Hi, my name is Efra. I am the Workforce Readiness Manager. I oversee the XL cohort, which is the seniors that have been part of the program for longer than a year. And I also oversee our external internships and the Salem Teen Court program.
Hi, I'm Brant. I am the College Access Corps member. I help organize service events, college tours, and help teens interested in pursuing higher education after high school.
Awesome, y'all. So I have like a few questions for y'all, and some next questions is just like more personal. And so so what are some things that you like to do during your downtime, like after work?
I love to go hiking, so anything outdoors. I really love the beach, just going like walks on the beach, as well as drawing and some painting, coloring, artsy stuff.
Nice.
I mainly draw, so I work on like comic book series and stuff like that. That's pretty much what I do.
I'm a big fan of playing basketball. Just again, being outside as well. Hiking would be also is like another like thing I like to do. Running is a new hobby that I started to develop, and it really helps out to to distract you from outside of work, so that you're not thinking about work anymore.
I like to read and watch documentaries about World War II. It's probably my favorite subject. So
I have another question, y'all. So I know like for most of us, and maybe not necessarily for all, but for myself, I'm like a first generation student, and son where I have to I've experienced a lot of firsts like within our family. So being like a first generation college student, so I just want to ask y'all, like, what are some like struggles that y'all experience as being like a first generation?
It was really difficult sometimes to blend in with the majority, just because I worked to pay my own tuition, so I didn't receive any help from like parents or outside sources. So I think it was just difficult to like say no to certain things and be like, well, I can't go out tonight because I do have to work a shift, or I can't go out because my bank account's pretty dry.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was probably the hardest part for me, is just that social aspect where you do have to kind of distance yourself at points.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me the hardest thing as a like first generation student was like my parents didn't want me to go to college. When I told them I was going to go, they actually said no. And I think a lot of that comes from like just the fear of the unknown, and like nobody else had done that right before. So being able to have those conversations on like why it's important to continue your education. I was really lucky in the fact that I was actually in the T3 program when I was in high school. So my case manager helped me navigate how to have that conversation with my parents.
Yeah, going off of like Yanira said, my parents weren't really, so I guess they didn't like the idea, at least for my older brothers. I have 4 older brothers, and it got to me and they are like, okay, yeah, you do need to go to college. So I was kind of fortunate, but my brothers did have that backlash that Yanira also had. So they didn't go to college. One is currently going to school right now. But For me, being the first one to graduate, it's just very difficult just because, again, like what Sarah said, you're the first to do a lot of things, whether it's financial aid, whether it's finding out where you're living, whether it's studying. No one can help you with your homework. No one can help you with all these things. So if you weren't as successful in high school, it is a harder transition. Not saying that it's not doable, because you just kind of find out your path naturally. So, I mean, there's just a lot of struggles, but it's just more of a knowing that you're going to be the first one to set an example is kind of like what helped me overcome most of those obstacles. And that's really it, really. And just finding the supportive people. I mean, talking to a lot of people as much as possible really just helped out. Again, when they say that they're there for you, then I mean, like, you gotta take their word for it. They are there for you, and they'll help you in whatever way they can. So.
Yeah, filling out the FAFSA was like the worst experience I've ever had. It like was hours and hours of just sitting there and being like, I don't understand anything this is saying. Like, who can I call? Who can I contact about this? Because like my parents didn't know. Like my mom was like, oh well, I guess you have to be this. But I think that it paid off at the end just because like you are doing the first. So like you get to set that example for the people behind you, and you get to be the person to turn around and be like, hey, I know how to do that. Like it took me 3 months to figure it out, but let me like teach you in 2 hours. So
I think that's a good thing that you shared, Sarah. I actually didn't do my FAFSA my freshman year of college, because during my senior year, I was told that I couldn't because I needed both of my parents' tax information, and I only had my mom's. So I never did the FAFSA, or like not that first year. So I didn't get that money, right? And I almost dropped out my first year of college after my first term. Like all the money I had been saving while I was working, and the few scholarships that I did do, because I didn't do a whole lot since I was working after school. I had run out of money my first term, and I almost dropped out. So again, it took like me being part of a support program and having like that support system through like Boys and Girls Club and the diversity scholars at Western to get me on a dean scholarship so I could finish the rest of that first year.
Yeah, and I think for me too, like I think similar to what you said, Yanira, was like that support system, where like that's like brand new territory, like where I went through the route going through community college and then to the university. So I had to kind of like gather a team of supporters. So like gathering like different mentors to begin like giving me the tools to like succeed at like a higher level, and like a level that I didn't think I was quite ready for. And so by the time I hit the university, I felt like I had a bit more confidence and had a better grasp of like my own identity, which was like a huge like driving force for me to even like graduate at Oregon State. So I actually have like another question for y'all too. So most of us, like, we've gone through like the whole pre through K elementary, pre-K through 12 elementary. So I just wanted to ask you, like, how has like your middle school experience been for y'all? And so what are some like the highlights or struggles that you've seen?
Middle school was a whole different time. It was difficult because there were aspects that were fun and they were easy, and that it was like, you know, you're having a good time, but middle school can be so awkward. Like when you grow out of it and you go to high school and you go to college, like you look back and you're like, okay, like I'm glad I did it, but I don't understand why I did it. So there's that aspect, but there's also aspects like I have friends from when I was in 6th grade that still talk to me and we still have that bond. So it's like, it can vary. Like middle school can be fun, but it can also be a weird time. So
I agree with Sarah. I was like, well, middle school was like a long time ago for me. But it's different because you're used to like in elementary school, like you have that recess and then you jump into middle school and you don't. So sometimes you try to like eat fast so you can still go out and like, I know I went to Waldo, so they had like, you could play basketball or tetherball or something outside. So you just like try to eat fast so they can get some recess. Yeah, but also like I did build a lot of really great relationships while I was in middle school. So like my best friends that I have now, that's where I met them. Like I met them in middle school. So we've been friends since like 6th grade, which is really awesome.
it's because you go through like such weird times together. Like I have a friend who we've been best friends since 6th grade, and she went through like the weirdest Justin Bieber phase, and it lasted all throughout middle school. And now we look back and it's just like, I'm glad you still have those post days. Like I'm glad that that happened, but we don't talk about it anymore. Like you go through phases in life where you just don't want people to see, and then you look over and that person's been there the whole time. So I think that middle school can be such like an important time in your life, because it's when you start developing your own thoughts and your own ideals and you become your own person. But that doesn't take away from like, you know, you're growing up. So people do things, people do weird things all the time, even as like, you know, now that I'm in my 20s. But I think middle school just always stick out, and it'll always be that time that you look back and you're like, oh God, like I can't believe I was like this. So yeah.
I think that middle school is one of the rare opportunities that, looking back, you can see exactly the route you're going to take to become an adult. I know, like in middle school, a lot of the stuff that I listened to and a lot of the people I hung out with, I don't talk to anymore. I don't listen to that music anymore. But the little things that came out of it that I still listen to, like some of the rock bands and stuff like that, like just influenced my views on the world. Because back then, you know, in middle school, you like things because maybe it's new or it sounds good or everybody else likes it. But then when you start to appreciate things for what they are, you know, going into high school and college, especially college, you look back and you're like, wow, this actually shaped how I was. Other than, you know, like in 7th grade when you go through the weird stage where you wear skulls all the time. So, you know, I think it's a great time. Awkward, but it's a great time to realize who you are as a person.
Yeah, and I have to go with what Brant said, honestly. Fashion trends, all those things that happened during that middle school year. I mean, I wore plaid once, and just because I thought it was cool, and I will never wear plaid again. But I mean, what Brant said was right, though. It's like where you're starting to form your identity, like who you are as a person. So you're hanging out with certain people, and then, you know, it might not be until high school you're like, you know what? They weren't really the crowd to go with. And maybe you have that experience in middle school. You're like, you know what? I don't want to be with these people. And that's okay. Obviously, not saying burning bridges or anything like that, but just, I mean, talk to as many people as possible. And the people that you find right with you, then just keep on talking to them. I mean, there's nothing wrong with talking to people and just getting to know more people and just becoming friends with everybody. But I mean, obviously, every experience is always different. So
So like our next question is we all know like we all have like hard days, specifically like at work or even like on a personal level as well. So how do y'all kind of cope with like hard days, and how do hard days look like for y'all?
Usually when Sarah walks in the building that I know.
I was called out. I mean, hard days come and go. Like sometimes there really isn't even a reason to have a hard day. Like you could just be having an off day with your emotions and stuff like that. But I think what really helps me is just knowing that like I can go to work and I can like, you know, joke around with my work buddies, and just having like a positive atmosphere to walk into, and people who are very understanding and very much so like supportive of how you are and how you feel. Like if I walk in one day and I'm just like, you know what, today's not going to be a very good day for me, and Brant sitting across, you know, the way from me, and I just see him start laughing, like I know that it's going to be a good day because there's something to laugh about. And so I think that the people you surround yourself with really do matter. But as well, like if you're just having an off day and you're kind of by yourself, like doing something that helps you refocus your energy. Because if you're sitting there and you're lying in bed and you're just like, you know, kind of sitting in it, then it's not going to get better because there's nothing that's going to help you. Like nothing's going to come to you at that point and be like, yeah, it's going to be great today. So sometimes you do have to make that effort. And as hard as it can be, you do have to start getting up, and you do have to like do stuff that makes you you. And it can sound insensitive to say that because there are people who, you know, it's difficult, like, to get up in the morning, but it's, you know, like, sometimes you got to put that aside and you got to, like, focus on one thing at a time. And even if it's super hard that you can't see yourself doing it, just focus on the next thing. And that could be, you know, plugging in your phone, or that can be like moving your pillow. But until you get to that point where you are feeling like, okay, I can move and I can get up and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I think it's really great. The fact, like, if you've been in the T3 office, you know that all of our desks are in the same office, right? So it's really easy to have conversations. And if you're hitting a wall where you are working on something and you're just not seeing the answer, you can easily, like, go and talk to somebody else. So that's something that I really like about how our team is set up, is that we can just bounce ideas off of each other, troubleshoot through things. Right now that we're not in the office, we're still having virtual meetings. So we do Zoom calls and we're still doing that troubleshooting, walking through things together. Something that helps me on, like, a more personal level or outside of work is music. I love listening to music, and whatever I'm listening to really, like, helps set my mood. And I really like going on drives. So sometimes I'm just going on a drive with some music on, and that's kind of like my therapy. That helps me relax. So I really enjoy that.
I agree.
For me, hard days can look, that's like what Sarah said, many different ways, whether it's emotional or just knowing that there are days where I come into the office and it might be 9 a.m. and I know I won't be out till 9 p.m. just because the Salem team courts that day or whatever it is, right? Adjusting schedules as well could help, but it's just, you know, sometimes things just need to be done that week. I think for me, it's really right after work. It's just reflecting on, like, okay, today was supposed to, like, was a hard day. Why was it hard? Was it just because it was long, or was it just because our cases were just too tough? Like, you know, like, sometimes those are things that are actually happening to people. So it's just like, just the realities of life, right? And just kind of like putting yourself in this perspective of, like, man, this could happen to any team, or, like, again, it just happens. So for me, it's really just understanding and knowing that it's okay to have bad days. I mean, it's just a reminder, you know, to enjoy the good days, right? And I think the only, like, I do a lot of reflecting of just, like, thinking to myself and just, like, talking to people, whether it's the staff, whether it's friends, partners, whatever it is, just being able to communicate. And I know Sarah, Brant, Yanira, and the rest of the squad, like Lucy as well, we've all had conversations when we're all going through tough times, and just knowing that everybody's there, right? Just there for you, not just as a team, but, like, as an actual human. Like, they're friends. They are my friends. I consider them my friends. Yes, we all work together, so that just makes it better. But again, it's like I can go to any of them if I needed to talk to them. I mean, and then of course they say exercising is really good too. So, you know, again, if you need to go run it out, go run it out. I mean, you'll probably forget about what was hurting you at work because your knees will hurt and you can't breathe. So I mean, it's just like those little things, right? If you really need to distract yourself, do something that just distracts you. But obviously, recommending those distractions as being healthy as possible, right? Exercising. I mean, it's cool to play video games every once in a while. I understand. Like, I mean, that's a good outlet for some people, but just, like, you can't just rely on just playing video games every time you're having a tough day, because then it's just gonna kind of be just stuck there. So sometimes just finding somebody you can talk to. That's really just what I do.
Yeah, and I guess, like, remembering that a lot of these emotions are temporary. You know, that bad day isn't gonna last out until the year. You know, like, at one point it will get better, and just reminding yourself sometimes, like, okay, well, today's really tough, but tomorrow might be better, and I just have to stick it through to tomorrow. I found that to be really helpful. But yeah, like Efra said, like, finding stuff that fits your self-care routine, and whether that be, like, playing video games or drawing or going out for a run, like, whatever you find, like, a healthy way to cope with negative emotions, that's what's going to work best for you. So yeah.
Awesome, yeah.